Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE's Discovery, watching the view screen with calm eyes. 3 days ago, his ship had picked up strange signals near the outer edge of human space. Now he knew what those signals meant. The aliens had found them. The enemy fleet hung in space like glittering jewels against the black void. 12 massive ships formed a perfect line, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. The largest vessel stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, its crystalline hull catching starlight and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. Weapon ports lined its sides like dark eyes, and energy fields danced around its edges. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said Lieutenant Sophie Grant from her station. Her voice stayed steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. Everyone on the bridge felt it. This was the moment that would change everything for humanity. "Put it through," Jake said. The view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The creature looked almost human, but not quite. Its skin held a pale blue tint, and its eyes were larger than human eyes, colored deep purple. When it spoke, the translation system turned its words into clear English. "I am Admiral Kira Voss of the Zephyrian Confederation. You are the species called humans, yes? We have traveled far to meet you." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Discovery. We welcome you to our space, Admiral Voss." The alien's expression shifted slightly. Jake couldn't tell if it was surprise or amusement. "Your space? How interesting. We have observed your worlds for some time now. Your technology is ... simple. Your ships are small. We thought it best to make contact before you venture too far from your home system." Behind Jake, Commander Lisa Blake moved to his side. She had been Earth's top diplomat for 15 years, and her face showed nothing but polite interest. "Admiral Voss, we appreciate your concern for our safety. Perhaps we could arrange a formal meeting to discuss our respective territories and interests." "Of course," Admiral Voss replied. "But first, you should understand what you face in this galaxy. There are many dangers out here. Pirates, hostile species, natural hazards. The Confederation has maintained peace in this region for over 2,000 years." The alien gestured, and the view screen split to show images of the Zephyrian fleet. Jake watched as the massive ships performed precise maneuvers, moving in perfect formation despite their enormous size. Energy weapons fired in demonstration, turning nearby asteroids into glowing clouds of vapor. "These are our Celestial-class dreadnoughts," Admiral Voss continued. "Each one carries enough firepower to level a continent. Our shield technology can withstand the full fury of a star. Our engines can fold space itself, allowing us to travel between systems in mere hours." Lieutenant Grant's eyes widened as she watched the display. The alien technology was clearly far beyond anything Earth possessed. Their smallest escort ship was twice the size of the Discovery, and the weapons demonstration had vaporized rocks that would have taken human mining ships days to break apart. "Impressive," Commander Blake said in a neutral tone. "Your civilization has achieved remarkable things." "Indeed," Admiral Voss replied. "This is why we offer our protection. Young species like yours often stumble into conflicts they cannot win. The galaxy is vast and full of threats. Under Confederation protection, humanity could grow and prosper in safety." Jake felt his jaw tighten slightly. The offer sounded generous, but the meaning was clear. Submit to us, or face the dangers alone. He glanced at Blake, who gave him the slightest nod. She understood too. "That's a generous offer, Admiral," Blake said. "However, Earth Command would need to review any such arrangement. We would need time to consult with our leadership and fully understand the terms." The alien's purple eyes narrowed slightly. "Of course. But surely you can see the wisdom in accepting our guidance. Your ships are built of simple metals. Your weapons use primitive kinetic energy. Against the threats that exist in this galaxy, you would be helpless. From the communications station, Lieutenant Grant spoke up. Admiral, we're detecting more ships approaching. They're human vessels. Jake smiled for the first time since the conversation began. That would be our escort. We weren't expecting to meet anyone out here, but Earth Command sent a small fleet to support our mission. 6 human ships dropped out of hyperspace, moving into formation around the Discovery. They were smaller than the alien vessels, built with clean lines and practical designs. No crystalline hulls or glowing energy fields, just honest metal and human engineering. Admiral Voss studied the new arrivals. These are your warships? Some of them, Jake replied. The UES Ranger is our heavy cruiser, commanded by Captain Ryan Torres. The others are frigates and support vessels. They seem adequate for protecting merchant traffic, the alien said. But surely you understand they would be no match for proper military vessels. Commander Blake stepped forward again. Admiral, we would be honored to demonstrate human capabilities, just as you've shown us yours. Perhaps we could arrange a joint exercise? A cultural exchange of military traditions? The alien admiral's expression shifted to what might have been amusement. A demonstration? Yes, that would be ... enlightening. We are curious about human weapons and tactics. It would help us understand how best to protect you. Excellent, Blake said. I'll need to send word to Earth Command for authorization, but I believe they'll approve. In the meantime, perhaps your fleet would accept our hospitality? We could arrange a formal meeting aboard one of our vessels. Admiral Voss nodded. Acceptable. We will maintain position here while you prepare your demonstration. I confess, we are quite interested to see what humans consider military technology. The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent for a moment. Jake looked around at his crew, seeing the same thoughts reflected in their faces. The aliens clearly expected to see primitive weapons and crude tactics. They thought they already knew everything about human capabilities. Commander Blake moved to Jake's side. Send the message to Earth Command, she said quietly. Full authorization request. Tell them we need to show these aliens what they're really dealing with. Jake nodded and turned to his communications officer. Grant, get me a secure channel. To Admiral Stone. Priority Alpha. As the crew worked to establish the connection, Jake looked back at the view screen showing the alien fleet. 12 massive ships, each one a work of art and engineering far beyond human technology. In a straight fight, they would crush any human fleet. But Jake had served in the Earth Navy for 20 years. He knew that straight fights were for amateurs. Real military strategy was about much more than who had the biggest guns. Sir, Grant reported. Connection established. Admiral Stone is standing by. Jake straightened his uniform and prepared to make the call that would change everything. The aliens thought they knew what humans were capable of. Soon, they would learn how wrong they were. Admiral Stone's response came through the secure channel within 6 hours. Jake Morrison read the message twice before calling Commander Blake to his ready room. The authorization was clear and direct, signed with Stone's personal code. There, giving us full clearance, Jake told Blake as she entered. Operation Revelation is approved. Blake nodded, her face serious. Good. The aliens have been patient, but I can tell they're getting eager to show us more of their technology. Admiral Voss sent another message an hour ago, suggesting we move to a better location for demonstrations. Where does she want to go? The Kepler asteroid field, about 2 light years from here. It's perfect for weapons testing, and it'll give them plenty of targets to show off with. Jake leaned back in his chair. And plenty of raw materials for us. Exactly. 2 days later, both fleets arrived at the asteroid field. The space around them filled with floating rocks, some as small as houses, others as large as cities. The Zephyrian ships took position in a perfect formation, their crystalline hulls gleaming in the light of the distant star. Captain Ryan Torres brought the USS Ranger alongside the Discovery, while the other human ships spread out in a loose defensive pattern. To alien eyes, the formation probably looked sloppy and unorganized. Admiral Voss opened communications from her flagship, the Celestial Hammer. Captain Morrison, this location should serve our purposes well. Shall we begin with our demonstration? Please, Admiral. We're eager to learn. What followed was a display of power that made everyone on the human ships pay attention. The Zephyrian fleet moved with impossible grace, their massive ships dancing through space like they weighed nothing. Their gravity drives left no exhaust trails, no visible signs of propulsion. Yet they accelerated and turned faster than physics should have allowed. Lieutenant Sophie Grant watched from her station, her instruments recording everything. Sir, their power readings are off the charts. Those ships are generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. The weapons demonstration was even more impressive. The aliens selected a large asteroid, roughly spherical and about 2 kilometers across. Admiral Voss explained that it was composed mostly of iron and nickel, with traces of rare metals. Observe, she said. The Celestial Hammer's main guns opened fire. Beams of pure energy lanced out, striking the asteroid from multiple angles. The rock didn't just break apart or explode. It simply ceased to exist, transformed into glowing plasma that spread out in perfect spheres before cooling into nothing. Our quantum disruptors operate at the subatomic level, Admiral Voss explained. They break the bonds that hold matter together. Very efficient for clearing obstacles or eliminating threats. Captain Torres whistled low over the comm channel. Jake, are you getting these readings? That weapon just converted an entire asteroid into energy. The power requirement alone should be impossible. The demonstration continued for an hour. The aliens showed off their shields by flying through asteroid impacts that should have crushed their ships. They displayed their scanning technology by identifying the exact composition of rocks from thousands of kilometers away. They even demonstrated their manufacturing capabilities by using energy fields to reshape smaller asteroids into perfect geometric forms. Through it all, Admiral Voss provided commentary, explaining each technology with the patient tone of a teacher instructing children. The message was clear. This is what real technology looks like. This is what you could have under our protection. Finally, the alien fleet returned to formation, having reduced a significant portion of the asteroid field to empty space or artistic sculptures. Most impressive, Admiral, Commander Blake said. When communications reopened, your civilization has mastered forces we're only beginning to understand. Thank you, Admiral Voss replied. And now, we would be honored to observe human military capabilities. Please, show us your weapons and tactics. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was ready. They had all received their briefings, and everyone knew their role in what was about to happen. We'd be happy to demonstrate, Jake said. But our approach to warfare is somewhat different from yours. We don't focus on individual ship superiority. Oh, how interesting. Please proceed. Jake gave the signal. Captain Torres brought the Ranger forward, moving toward a cluster of smaller asteroids. The human ship looked tiny next to the alien dreadnoughts, and its movements seemed clumsy compared to their graceful maneuvers. Our ships prioritize different things, Jake explained as Torres began his demonstration. Speed, efficiency, and adaptability rather than raw power. The Ranger suddenly accelerated, using a nearby asteroid's gravity to slingshot itself toward another target. The maneuver was complex, requiring precise calculations and perfect timing. The ship's trajectory curved through space in a way that the aliens hadn't expected. Torres fired the Ranger's main guns at a medium-sized asteroid. The kinetic projectiles struck with tremendous force, but instead of vaporizing the target, they shattered it into thousands of smaller pieces. Then something unexpected happened. Small drones launched from the Ranger's cargo bays, spreading out among the asteroid debris. They began collecting the fragments, sorting them by composition and size. "Interesting," Admiral Voss said. "You use the destroyed material rather than simply eliminating it." "Resources are valuable," Commander Blake replied. "We've learned not to waste anything that might be useful later." But the real surprise came when Captain Amy Rodriguez brought the U.S. Falcon into the demonstration area. Her frigate was even smaller than the Ranger, but it moved with a precision that caught the aliens' attention. "Captain Rodriguez is one of our best pilots," Jake explained. "Show you some of our standard combat maneuvers." The Falcon began a series of movements that defied what the aliens thought they knew about human technology. The ship used microgravity fields and momentum conservation to change direction without using visible thrusters. It spun, twisted, and accelerated in ways that should have torn apart its crew from the forces involved. "How?" Admiral Voss asked. "Your technology readings suggest you shouldn't be capable of those maneuvers." "We've had a long time to practice," Blake said simply. The demonstration continued as more human ships joined in. Each one showed different capabilities, different approaches to the same problems. Where the aliens had built massive, powerful vessels, humans had created smaller ships that worked together in complex patterns. Then Jake gave the final signal. "Admiral Voss, there's one more ship we'd like you to meet. Captain Ben Walsh commands the U.S. Provisions. She's our supply vessel." A new ship approached from the edge of the system. It was larger than the frigates, but smaller than the alien escorts. Its hull was blocky and utilitarian, with none of the sleek lines of military vessels. It looked exactly like what it claimed to be: a cargo ship, a supply vessel. Admiral Voss sounded confused. "You wish to demonstrate your logistics capabilities?" "In a way," Commander Blake said. "Captain Walsh, would you mind showing our guests what the Provisions can do?" Walsh's voice came over the calm and professional. "Happy to oblige, Commander." "Admiral Voss, what you're about to see represents humanity's greatest innovation in military technology." The cargo ship moved toward the debris field that Torres had created earlier. Its hull opened in sections, revealing complex machinery inside. Arms and collectors extended, beginning to gather the scattered asteroid fragments. "We learned something important during our early wars," Walsh explained as his ship worked. "The side that can keep fighting the longest usually wins. It doesn't matter how powerful your weapons are if you run out of ammunition. It doesn't matter how strong your ships are if you can't repair battle damage." Admiral Voss watched in growing amazement as the Provisions began assembling something from the collected materials. The process was fast, automated, and precise. Within minutes, a small fighter craft emerged from the ship's manufacturing bay, fully armed and operational. "Captain Walsh," Admiral Voss said slowly, "did your supply ship just build a combat vessel?" "Yes, ma'am. And given enough time and materials, she can build a lot more than that." The implications hit the alien admiral like a physical blow. She stared at the humble cargo ship as it continued its work, and Jake could almost see her mind working through the possibilities. Admiral Voss stared at the human supply ship as it continued building fighter craft from asteroid debris. Her purple eyes tracked every movement of the manufacturing arms, every piece of machinery that turned raw rock into functional weapons. Of war, the process was crude compared to Zephyrian technology, but it was happening right in front of her. "Captain Walsh," she said carefully, "how long does it take your ship to construct one fighter?" "About 40 minutes for a basic model," Walsh replied. 60 minutes if you want the advanced targeting systems. Why do you ask? Voss looked at her tactical officer, Commander Thane Caraxes. His face showed the same confusion she felt. And how many fighters can you build simultaneously? The Provisions has 6 manufacturing bays. So 6 at a time, assuming I have enough raw materials. Which I do, thanks to Captain Torres making such a nice debris field. Jake Morrison watched the alien admiral's expression change as she worked through the mathematics. 6 fighters every hour. 144 fighters per day. More than 4,000 fighters per month, assuming continuous operation. Admiral, Commander Blake said gently, perhaps we should explain our military philosophy. It might help you understand what you're seeing. Voss nodded slowly, her attention fixed on the human diplomat. When humans first developed space warfare, Blake began, we made the same assumptions your people probably did. Bigger ships, more powerful weapons, stronger shields. Build the most advanced vessel possible, and use it to dominate the battlefield. On the view screen, the Provisions launched its first completed fighter. The small craft immediately began patrol patterns around the human fleet. But we learned something during our early conflicts, Blake continued. The most advanced ship in the galaxy is still just one ship. And one ship can be destroyed, disabled, or simply overwhelmed by numbers. Captain Torres joined the conversation from the Ranger. We fought a war about 60 years ago. The Martian colonies tried to break away from Earth. They had better technology. Newer ships, more advanced weapons. On paper, they should have won easily. What happened? Voss asked. Earth had more manufacturing capacity, Torres replied. Mars could build 10 ships. Earth could build 100. Mars had quantum torpedoes. That could destroy any Earth vessel with one hit. But Earth had enough vessels that it didn't matter. Admiral Voss felt a chill as she understood what the humans were telling her. You won through attrition. We won because we could replace our losses faster than Mars could inflict them, Blake corrected. Every battle made us stronger, while making them weaker. Eventually, they ran out of ships and ammunition. We didn't. The second fighter launched from the Provisions, followed quickly by a third. Walsh's manufacturing bays were working at full capacity now, and asteroid debris disappeared into his ship's collectors as fast as his crews could process it. But surely, Voss said, there are limits to this strategy. You cannot build ships faster than we can destroy them. Commander Blake smiled. Admiral, you're thinking like someone who fights one battle at a time. We don't fight battles. We fight wars. Jake gestured to Captain Amy Rodriguez aboard the Falcon. Captain Rodriguez, would you mind showing Admiral Voss our standard fleet? Engagement doctrine? Happy to, sir. The human ships began moving into new formations. Instead of the tight, organized patterns the aliens expected, they spread out across a vast area of space. Each ship took position near different asteroid clusters, maintaining communication but operating independently. This is called distributed operations, Rodriguez explained as her ship demonstrated. If you attack one of our vessels, the others don't come to its rescue. They continue their missions. What missions? Voss asked. Resource gathering, manufacturing, and reproduction, Jake answered. Every human ship is designed to operate independently for extended periods. Every ship carries manufacturing equipment. Every engagement is designed to strengthen our overall position. The Provisions launched its 4th and 5th fighters, then began working on something larger. Admiral Voss watched in growing alarm. As the shape of a small frigate began taking form in the ship's main manufacturing bay. Captain Walsh, she said, are you building another warship? Yes, ma'am. Should be finished in about 8 hours. Basic model, but fully functional. It'll carry its own manufacturing equipment, of course. Of course, Voss repeated faintly. Commander Caraxes leaned forward. Admiral, if each human ship can build more ships, and each new ship can also build more ships. Exponential growth. Voss finished. They don't need to win battles. They just need to survive long enough to outproduce any enemy. Blake nodded. Now you're beginning to understand. Your celestial hammer is a magnificent vessel, Admiral. It could probably destroy half our fleet before we could stop it. But could it destroy all of us before we built replacements? Could it destroy our shipyards? Could it hunt down every human manufacturing vessel in the galaxy? The alien admiral stared at the view screen, watching human ships spread out across the asteroid field. Each one was collecting materials, building weapons, expanding their capabilities. They weren't preparing for a single decisive battle. They were preparing for a war that could last centuries. This is why we don't build dreadnoughts, Captain. Torres added. A dreadnought is a single point of failure. Destroy it, and you've eliminated a huge portion of your enemy's combat power. But if we lose a frigate, we can replace it in days. And every frigate we build, Walsh said as his sixth fighter launched, incorporates lessons learned from previous engagements. The ship I'm building now has improvements based on data we collected from watching your weapons demonstration too. Hours ago, Voss felt her tactical assumptions crumbling. You were studying us while we demonstrated our capabilities? Of course, Blake replied. You showed us your quantum disruptors, so we modified our armor composition to better resist subatomic disruption. You showed us your gravity drives, so we analyzed the field patterns and developed countermeasures. Every piece of technology you revealed made our next generation of ships more effective against yours. The frigate in the provisions manufacturing bay was taking shape rapidly. Its hull incorporated design elements that definitely hadn't been there at the start of the demonstration. Voss could see modifications that seemed specifically designed to counter Zephyrian weapons and tactics. This is impossible, Commander Coraxus muttered. You cannot adapt technology that quickly. We don't adapt the technology, Jake explained. We adapt the manufacturing processes. Human ships aren't built to fixed specifications. They're built to evolving patterns that improve with each iteration. Captain Rodriguez demonstrated by having the Falcon produce a small reconnaissance drone. The device that emerged from her ship's fabricators looked different from standard human designs. It incorporated elements clearly inspired by Zephyrian scanning technology. Every human ship is both a weapons platform and a research laboratory, Rodriguez explained. We don't just fight with what we have. We fight with what we can build, based on what we learn from our enemies. Admiral Voss realized that her fleet's demonstration had been a catastrophic mistake. Instead of intimidating the humans into submission, she had given them detailed intelligence about Zephyrian military capabilities. Even worse, she had given them time to begin adapting to those capabilities. Admiral, Blake said quietly, your Confederation has maintained peace for 2,000 years by being the strongest force in the galaxy. But strength isn't just about having the most powerful ships. It's about being able to maintain that power over time. The humans had shown her something that challenged everything the Zephyrians believed about warfare. Individual superiority meant nothing against an enemy that could learn, adapt, and reproduce faster than you could destroy them. What do you want? Voss asked finally. The same thing you do, Jake replied. Peace, security, and prosperity for our people. But we want it as equals, not as subjects under your protection. The frigate in Walsh's manufacturing bay was nearly complete. In a few more hours, the human fleet would have one more vessel, built from materials that had been floating rocks that morning. Tomorrow, there might be 2 new ships. Next week, there might be dozens. Admiral Voss looked at her beautiful, irreplaceable dreadnoughts and wondered if the age of such vessels was coming to an end. A newly constructed frigate emerged from the provisions manufacturing bay 8 hours later. Admiral Voss watched as Captain Walsh's crew activated the vessel's systems and began final testing procedures. The ship looked different from the other human vessels, sleeker somehow, with modifications that made her tactical officer nervous. "Admiral," Commander Caraxes said quietly, "that frigate is incorporating countermeasures specifically designed against our weapons. Look at the hull plating patterns." Voss studied the new ship through her sensors. Caraxes was right. The armor configuration was clearly meant to deflect quantum disruptor beams, and the ship's energy signature suggested shielding designed to resist the civic weapon frequencies. "They built that in 8 hours, she said slowly. 8 hours from raw asteroids to a fully functional warship equipped to fight us." Captain Walsh opened a communication channel. "Admiral Voss, I'd like to introduce you to the UES Adaptive. She's our newest frigate, and she's ready for service." "Impressive, Captain Walsh, but surely one additional ship doesn't change the tactical situation significantly." Walsh paused, and Voss could hear something like amusement in his voice. "Admiral, I think there's something about the provisions you should know. She's not just a manufacturing ship." "What do you mean?" Commander Blake cut into the conversation. "Admiral, what Captain Walsh is trying to tell you is that the provisions can build more than just fighters and frigates. Given enough time and materials, she can construct copies of herself." The words hit Admiral Voss like a physical blow. Copies of herself? Self-replicating manufacturing platforms, Jake Morrison confirmed. Every major human fleet includes at least one ship like the provisions. Given sufficient resources, a single manufacturing vessel can become 2 vessels. 2 can become 4. 4 can become 8. Voss felt her grip tighten on her command chair. "How long does it take to build another manufacturing ship?" "About 3 weeks for a basic model," Walsh replied. 6 weeks if you want all the advanced systems. The real limitation is raw materials, but space is full of asteroids, dead planets, and other sources of metals and rare elements. The implications crashed over Admiral Voss like a wave. The humans weren't just showing her their ability to build ships quickly. They were demonstrating exponential industrial growth. One manufacturing ship could become 1,000 manufacturing ships, given enough time and resources. "This is why we don't worry about individual battles," Commander Blake explained. "Even if you destroyed 90% of our fleet today, the remaining 10% could rebuild everything you destroyed within a few months. And the new ships would be better than the old ones, because they'd incorporate everything we learned from fighting you." Captain Torres joined the conversation from the Ranger. "Admiral, during our civil war with Mars, we lost our entire main battle fleet in a single engagement. 14 dreadnoughts, gone in less than an hour. The Martians thought they'd won the war, but you hadn't," Voss said, already knowing the answer. "Our manufacturing ships were never in that battle," Torres continued. "They were scattered across the outer system, building replacements. 6 months later, we had 28 new ships where we'd lost 14. A year later, we had 56. Mars couldn't keep up with the production rate. The UES Adaptive finished its system checks and moved into formation with the other human vessels. As it did, Voss noticed that the other ships were subtly changing their positions to accommodate tactical information gathered from the new frigate sensor systems. "Your ships are networked," Commander Caraxes observed. "They share information instantly." "Of course," Captain Rodriguez replied from the Falcon. "Every human ship contributes to our collective knowledge base. When one ship learns something new, every other ship in the fleet benefits immediately." To demonstrate, Rodriguez had her ship perform a new evasive maneuver that clearly incorporated lessons learned from watching Zephyrian ship movements. Within minutes, every other human vessel was executing variations of the same maneuver. "We don't just build ships," Jake explained. We build learning systems. Every engagement teaches us something new about our enemies, our technology, and our tactics. Every ship we construct is smarter than the ones that came before. Admiral Voss watched the human fleet with growing unease. What she had initially dismissed as primitive vessels were revealing themselves to be something far more dangerous. They weren't just warships. They were components of a larger system designed to learn, adapt, and multiply. But surely, she said, there are limits to this approach. You cannot expand indefinitely. Resources, logistics, command and control, these things constrain any military force. True, Blake acknowledged, but our constraints are different from yours. You're limited by the number of irreplaceable dreadnoughts you can afford to build and crew. We're limited by the amount of raw materials in the galaxy. Captain Walsh highlighted the point by beginning construction of another frigate. His manufacturing bays had been collecting asteroid debris throughout the conversation, and now they started assembling a second vessel. This one looked even more advanced than the Adaptive, with design features that hadn't existed in human technology an hour earlier. Each ship we build is a test platform, Walsh explained as his crews worked. We try new configurations, new systems, new approaches to old problems. Most experiments fail, but the ones that succeed get incorporated into the next generation. And the next generation, Captain Torres added, gets built in parallel across dozens or hundreds of manufacturing ships simultaneously. Innovation spreads through our fleet faster than any traditional military organization could adapt. Admiral Voss realized that the humans had turned warfare into an evolutionary process. Their ships weren't just weapons. They were organisms in a technological ecosystem, reproducing, mutating, and improving with each generation. This is why we offered to demonstrate our capabilities, Commander Blake said. Not to threaten you, but to help you understand what you're dealing with. The Confederation has maintained peace through superior firepower, but firepower is just one factor in military success. The second frigate began taking shape in Walsh's manufacturing bay. Even in its incomplete state, Voss could see that it incorporated features from both human and Zephyrian technology. The humans had analyzed her fleet's capabilities and were already building ships designed to exploit weaknesses in Confederation defenses. You want us to fear you? Voss said. No, Jake replied. We want you to respect us. There's a difference. Fear leads to conflict. Respect leads to cooperation. And if we choose conflict? The question hung in space between the two fleets. Admiral Voss already knew the answer. The Confederation could win any single battle through superior technology and firepower. But could they win a war against an enemy that learned from every defeat and returned stronger each time? Admiral, Blake said carefully, the Confederation has been the dominant power in this region for 2,000 years. You've maintained peace through strength, and that's admirable. But imagine what you could accomplish with partners instead of subjects. The UES Adaptive launched a small probe that began detailed scans of the surrounding asteroid field. Within minutes, it had cataloged every piece of debris larger than a basketball and analyzed their mineral composition. The data flowed to Walsh's manufacturing ship, which immediately began adjusting its production plans to optimize resource utilization. We're not asking you to abandon your technology or your territory, Jake continued. We're suggesting that maybe there's room in this galaxy for two different approaches to achieving the same goals. Admiral Voss looked at her magnificent dreadnoughts, each one a masterpiece of Zephyrian engineering. Then she looked at the humble human ships, crude by comparison, but multiplying before her eyes. The question wasn't which approach was better. The question was whether the galaxy was big enough for both. Admiral Voss stood silently on her bridge for several minutes, watching the human ships continue their work. The second frigate was nearly complete. and Captain Walsh had begun construction on what looked like a smaller manufacturing vessel. Each new ship that emerged from the human production lines carried improvements based on everything they had observed about. Zephyrian Technology. Commander Coraxis moved to her side. Admiral, our tactical computers have run projections based on what we've seen today. If the humans can truly replicate their manufacturing capabilities exponentially, they could match our fleet strength within 6 months. Within 2 years, they could outnumber us 10 to 1. And every ship they build will be specifically designed to counter our weapons and tactics, Voss added quietly, while our ships remain unchanged. What are your orders, Admiral? Voss looked at her beautiful fleet, 12 perfect vessels that had maintained Confederation dominance for decades. Each ship represented centuries of technological advancement and countless resources. They were irreplaceable masterpieces of engineering, but masterpieces could be copied, improved upon, and mass-produced by an enemy that viewed warfare as an industrial process rather than an art form. Open a channel to Captain Morrison, she said finally. Jake's face appeared on the view screen, calm and patient. Behind him, Admiral Voss could see his bridge crew continuing their normal duties, as if demonstrating revolutionary military technology. Was just another day's work. Admiral Voss, Jake said. I hope our demonstration has been informative. Informative, Voss repeated. Captain Morrison, in the space of 1 day, you have shown me that everything the Confederation believes about military superiority may be wrong. Not wrong, Commander Blake interjected, stepping into view. Just incomplete. Your approach works perfectly for maintaining regional dominance against enemies who think the same way you do. But it has vulnerabilities against enemies who think differently, like humans, Blake confirmed. But Admiral, we're not your enemies. We don't want to conquer Confederation space or destroy your civilization. We just want to exist as equals in this galaxy. The UES Adaptive completed its first patrol circuit and docked with the provisions to receive upgraded weapon systems. The process took less than 30 minutes, and when the frigate undocked, its combat capability had noticeably improved. Your ships learn and evolve in real time, Voss observed. Every human vessel is designed for continuous improvement, Captain. Torres explained from the Ranger. We don't build ships to fight yesterday's battles. We build ships to fight tomorrow's battles, using everything we've learned from today. Admiral Voss made a decision that would have seemed impossible an hour earlier. Captain Morrison, I would like to request a formal meeting. Not a diplomatic negotiation, but a technical exchange. My engineers need to understand what you've shown us today. Of course, Jake replied, but I should warn you, Admiral. Once you understand how our manufacturing systems work, you'll also understand why the traditional model of military dominance may be coming to an end. Perhaps it's time for a new model. 6 hours later, Admiral Voss found herself aboard the UES Provisions, walking through manufacturing bays that defied everything she thought she knew about industrial production. Captain Ben Walsh served as her guide, explaining each system with the enthusiasm of someone genuinely proud of his ship's capabilities. This is our primary fabrication unit, Walsh said, gesturing to a complex array of machinery that was currently assembling fighter engines. It can produce any component we have blueprints for, and the AI systems can design new components based on observed requirements. Chief Engineer Nina Cross joined them at the next station. Admiral, what you're seeing here is actually fairly primitive compared to what we can do planetside. This ship is designed for rapid field production, not optimal. Efficiency. How primitive? Voss asked. A proper manufacturing planet can build a ship like the Provisions in about 4 days, Cross replied. And we have 17 manufacturing worlds in human space, with more coming online every year. The implications hit Admiral Voss again. The Humans hadn't just shown her one manufacturing ship. They had shown her a single example of an industrial capacity that spanned multiple star systems. "Admiral," Walsh said as they reached the ship's central production control room, "I want to show you something that might interest you." On the main display, Walsh brought up the blueprints for the frigate currently under construction. But these weren't standard human designs. The ship incorporated Zephyrian energy shielding, Confederation-style hull plating, and weapon configurations that blended both technologies. "We've been analyzing your ship's capabilities since the demonstration began," Walsh explained. "This frigate will be able to interface directly with Zephyrian systems. Its weapons can be configured to Confederation standards, and its manufacturing. They can produce either human or Zephyrian equipment." "You're building a hybrid vessel," Voss said. "We're building a bridge," Cross corrected. "A ship that can serve with either fleet, using the best of both technologies." Admiral Voss stared at the blueprints. The design was elegant, incorporating the artistic beauty of Zephyrian engineering with the practical adaptability of human systems. It was better than either approach alone. "Why?" she asked. "Because," Commander Blake said, entering the control room, "we believe cooperation produces better results than domination. Your technology is beautiful and efficient. Our technology is adaptable and scalable. Together, they could be revolutionary." Captain Morrison joined them a moment later. "Admiral, we've spent the last day showing you why traditional military thinking might not work against human industrial capacity. But we'd rather spend our time showing you what we could accomplish working together." The hybrid frigate launched an hour later, its systems running perfectly, despite incorporating technologies that had never been combined before. Captain Amy Rodriguez took command of the vessel, demonstrating that human crews could operate Confederation equipment as easily as their own. "Your people adapt quickly," Admiral Voss observed. "We've had practice," Rodriguez replied over the comm. "Every new technology we encounter becomes part of our knowledge base. We don't just study alien equipment. We improve it." As if to prove her point, Rodriguez engaged the hybrid ship's modified Zephyrian engines. The vessel accelerated faster and more efficiently than any Confederation ship Voss had ever seen, using improvements that human engineers had developed. In a matter of hours, Commander Caraxes approached Admiral Voss as the demonstration concluded. "Admiral, what are your orders regarding the human fleet?" Voss looked at the combined force of human and hybrid vessels, now maneuvering together in perfect coordination. The humans had shown her something that challenged every assumption the Confederation had made about military power and technological superiority. But they had also shown her something else. They had shown her partnership. "Open a channel to all ships," she said finally. "Confederation and human vessels." When the channel opened, Admiral Voss addressed both fleets. "Today, two different civilizations have shared their greatest military secrets. We have seen that strength comes in many forms. The Confederation has maintained peace through superior individual capability. Humanity maintains security through superior collective adaptation." She paused, looking at the hybrid frigate. It represented something entirely new. "I propose that we explore what these approaches might accomplish together, not as protector and protected, but as equals working toward common goals." Captain Morrison smiled. "Admiral Voss, I think that's an excellent foundation for a real alliance." Two fleets departed the asteroid field together, human manufacturing ships and Zephyrian dreadnoughts traveling side by side. Behind them, they left a field of hybrid vessels that incorporated the best of both civilizations' technologies. The age of military dominance through overwhelming individual superiority was ending. The age of cooperative technological evolution was about to begin.